Hello everyone and welcome back. I am Duke Silver, and today we're going to be playing some vintage cube on Magic the Gathering Online. Yeah, this is a cube that generally they put up on Magic Online between sets. Once the sets kind of have gotten a little bit stale, they generally throw up the vintage cube to do something a little bit different, where you get to play with the most powerful cards in Magic. Yeah, I did a few drafts the other day on stream and had a pretty good time with it, so I figured I would share a couple. But yeah, let's get into it. So our pack 1, pick 1, we take Preordain just because the pack was kind of dry. I probably should have taken a land first, and then there's a bit of lag there, so I accidentally took a Green Sun Zenith as a pack 2. It's definitely not a bad second pick. It's not the worst thing you can pick, but that was definitely a mistake, or was not intentional anyhow. But yeah, we got our third pick here. We got a choice between, we got Palace Jailer, Tolarian Academy, or Taiga here. My inclination is just to take the Taiga just because I already have the Green Sun Zenith. Palace Jailer is very good. It exiles a creature as well as it can give you the Monarch, which gives you some extra cards. We'll take a look at the Atraxa here. It's one of the newer cards, I believe. 4 colors, so we don't necessarily want to be getting into that super early. We've already got the Green Sun Zenith and Taiga, so the Tooth and Nail's looking kind of appealing, as it's a pretty great green finisher. There's also a Signet here, which, I mean, fast mana is kind of the name of the game here. Glenalenja Archmage is also a very solid card, but I mean, we're not in blue right now. I mean, we do have the Preordain, so that's what I kind of considered that as well. We take the Signet. Again, just fast mana is just super important. In Vintage Cube, you want to be doing whatever you're trying to accomplish very fast. Otherwise, people will kill you on turn 2. Okay, we're just gonna take the Dragon Tree Speaker. It's a really solid mana dork. I mean, it takes a little bit of investment, so if they disrupt you, you can lose a lot of momentum. But it does tap for a lot of mana, as it taps for 2 on turn 2. Well, you have to level it up on turn 2, and then it taps for 2, so you still get to play something that costs 2 on turn 2, and then turn 3 that gives you roughly 5 mana just with that. We're gonna take Utopia Sprawl, just continue getting more fast mana. It's another green mana source. You just attach it to a land and taps for an extra mana. And now there's a couple Storm cards in here with Manamorphose and Seething Song, but I think we are going to keep away from the Storm. We don't really have a good setup for it. We're just going to take another Signet. It's going to be a little bit more fast mana. And then yeah, we get another pack with some more mana acceleration and a Thran Dynamo, just a 4 mana artifact that taps for 3. It just gives you a pretty big boost in mana if you can get there. And we get a pretty late Plow Under here. Plow Under is a card that gets kind of underutilized, but it's a super big momentum swing. We're going to take a Coalition Relic, just continue our theme of taking mana rocks. But yeah, Plow Under is a card that puts 2 of your opponent's lands from in play on top of their library. Also, Tooth and Nail came back, so again, that's a great finisher. We're just going to slam that, of course. And then we're going to take this Phyrexian Revoker. It's just a decent little sideboard card if you need to shut down some kind of activated abilities. We're going to pick up either a land or a Deranged Hermit here. I'm going to take the Hermit, I think. If we get like Gaia's Cradle, it ends up being very good. Otherwise, it's a fine curve filler in some decks. Alright, pack 2, we have the choice between Rafellos, Crucible, and Pattern of Rebirth is kind of interesting in green decks. If you have a way to kill our Sack Outlet, or a way to kill a creature, then kill one of your own creatures, then yeah, you can cheat out something very early. But since we're already very heavily into green, we're just going to take Rafellos here. It taps for it gives you 1 green mana for every forest you have in play, and generally that ends up being a lot. And I mean, we're gonna be very forest heavy anyways. So now we got a couple fetch lands in this pack. Fetch lands are very good, as you can take different dual lands, and that just ends up being really great mana fixing. And then, okay, we end up taking the fetch land there. It'll give us some splash options later. Strip Mine is the consideration in this pack, but I think we're just going to have to take Channel here. Channel is very busted. It's just 2 green, and then you can pay 1 life for 1 colorless mana, and we follow it up immediately with exactly the card you want to, with Emra-Cool, which is just 15 colorless mana. And it's 15/15, has protection from colored spells, and Annihilator 6, and you get to take another turn if you cast it from your hand. So it's an I win the game on the card spot. So, and you can just do it on turn 2 if you have a channel. You can channel Emra-Cool. You get to take an extra turn, attack with it. Opponent loses all their permanents, and you just win the game. So now we have a 2-card I win the game combo on turn 2. generally what you want in Vintage Cube. You want to try and get one or two of those. We're just going to take Terastodon. It's another big green threat. It's it replaces 3 non-creature permanents with 3/3s. So that's just a great way to disrupt your opponent or get an army of 3/3s. We're going to take Oracle of Moldiah here. The Oracle is going to it lets you play lands from the top of your deck and play an additional land every turn. So it lets you kind of filter out. And also just like you get card advantage if you're just playing lands off the top of your deck. We're going to take Devoted Druid here. With the Pattern of Rebirth, speaking of Pattern of Rebirth, it did come back, which we are going to take, but the Devoted Druid can put a -1/-1 counter on itself to untap itself. So you can tap for 2 mana, and then you can put another counter on it to kill it. So it can activate Pattern of Rebirth by itself. I almost take the Scavenging Ooze here, just because Scavenging Ooze is a great sideboard card, but we're going to take the Xenagos. So Xenagos is a red-green god. It only becomes a creature if you have, I think, 7 red or green pips on permanents you control. But while it's in play, during your combat phase, it gives one of your creatures haste and +X/+X, where X is its power. So if we Tooth and Nail with Entwine, we go find 2 creatures and put them into play. We can put Xenagos and Emra-Cool into play, and then it'll give Emra-Cool haste, and we just win the game on the spot. So. I think we're just going to take Mind Twist. Mind Twist is just such a busted card. We've got this black-green fetch land. Nothing else in this pack looks exceptionally great. Hornet Queen is a fine green threat, a good sort of safety valve. But yeah, we're going to take the Mind Twist and then potentially splash it. It's just 1 black X. Opponent discards X cards at random, which is absurd. We get a pretty weak second pick there. We take a Sylvan Library, which can be fine card selection, but in general, it's just fine. And then we're going to take the Mirari's Wake. Again, we have this fetch land. We want to pick up a couple more for a potential splash. We've got Coalition Relic and a couple Cygnus as well, and Utopia Sprawl, so we can make colored mana. Speaking of making colored mana, there's a Birds of Paradise, as well as a Woodfall Primus. We're definitely taking the birds here. Woodfall Primus is kind of a worse Terastodon. It only takes out 1 thing, but it doesn't give your opponent a 3/3, which is generally pretty irrelevant anyways. We take a Through the Breach just as kind of a backup plan for our Emra-Cool here. We're going to be able to make incidental red mana. We have the Taiga already with our fetch land, as well as, again, Signets and whatnot. We just take a land, and yeah, Hornet Queen comes back. Again, it's a fine threat. It's not a huge, extremely fast clock, but it makes so many really good blockers. And we get a Force of Vigor very late there. That's going to help us disrupt opponents' artifacts. And in Vintage Cube, there's so many powerful artifacts that having that kind of effect is really nice. All right, and there is our draft. And here we go on to deck building here. We end up just playing the red cards and not going for the greedy splashes in white and black. I did accidentally leave a Plains in the deck though. This is the final version of the deck. I just kind of cut out the deck building portion anyways. But yeah, we're gonna move on to round 1 pretty quick here. Just figured I would leave it on screen for a moment so you could see what's in there. All right, off to round 1, game 1 here. We get a 1-lander to start, but we do have 2 mana dorks, so we're pretty much fine with that. We've got, again, we can ramp. If we can ramp into this Plow Under, then that can do some very good things. Opponent is going to start with an Esper Sentinel, which is gonna. It's so 1 power, 1/1, and it says whenever your opponent plays a non-creature spell, they have to pay mana equal to its power, or else they get to draw a card. So I have to be leery about trying to, or allowing my opponent to draw too many cards off of that. We do have a decent amount of non-creature spells in our hand, but our acceleration is mostly coming from creatures, so we're kind of fine with that. And right off the hop, I do kind of assume that my opponent is on mono white aggro, so I am going to try and hedge against that a little bit. I think playing the birds on turn 1 was wrong. If I hadn't drawn the second land, it wouldn't have been, but I should have played the Tree Speaker since I drew the second land, because I can level up the Tree Speaker on 2 and then play the bird next turn, rather than just playing a 3 mana spell here. We're gonna play this Ramping Elf here. It's gonna make us sack a land, and then we get to go find 2 extra lands. Opponent does play Mana Vault though, which is very scary. It's just a 1 mana artifact that taps for 3 colorless mana, so it accelerates you pretty quickly. You do have to pay 4 during your upkeep to untap it, which means it's like a one-time use early, but getting to play something like an Elish Norn here on turn 3 is pretty good though. And yeah, so that's gonna kind of throw a wrench in our gears here. We are gonna get to play a Plow Under though on turn 3, which is very good. We're gonna be able to put 2 lands on top of their deck. They are gonna draw one of them, so normally Plow Under would like negate their next 2 draws as well as make them play those lands over again for the next 2 turns, and Mana Vault's not gonna untap, although they do have a 4/7 threat to beat us with for a little bit. But yeah, I mean the Esper Sentinel is gonna help them kind of draw through anyways, draw through the Plow Under's other negative effect. So they're definitely behind on tempo, but I mean again they have a threat on board, and we're gonna just cast our Utopia Sprawl, just get it into play, and then we're gonna cast this Pattern of Rebirth. We're gonna be able to pay for at least one of these, but unfortunately they are gonna draw one more card here. Just have to be careful of which lands we tap. We don't want to tap the one that the Sprawl is going on to. And yeah, we're going to put Pattern of Rebirth onto our, I believe it's Springleaf Druid, which means they can't attack with their Elish Norn anymore, because we can just block. And if it dies with Pattern of Rebirth on it, we just get to go find Emra-Cool and put it into play. Alright, they play a Wall of Omens, which normally just draws them 1 card, but because of Elish Norn, all their Enter the Battlefield triggers are doubled, so they draw 2. And also, sorry, I kind of glossed over what Elish Norn does. Elish Norn shuts off my enters the battlefield triggers and doubles theirs. So it's quite powerful, especially because blue-white generally has a lot of enter the battlefield effects. In this cube, in particular, there's definitely a blinking sub theme where you want to play creatures that give you value when they come into play, and then basically just like blink them out, and then they come back in and get you more value. Or get the Enter the Battlefield trigger again, and there is another Enter the Battlefield trigger that's going to give them the initiative, which is going to let them venture into a dungeon, which gives them a variety of different effects. I won't go into details on how dungeons work, but yeah, for each of those rooms you see there, they get a different effect, and basically every turn they're going to get to do that as long as they have the initiative. And if you hit somebody with combat damage, you do take the initiative from them, and then you start to go through your own dungeon. So it can be a little bit risky, but in general, it's a very powerful effect. You just get a lot of incidental value. And the last room there is extremely powerful. It says mill 10, and then you get to put any creature onto the battlefield. Of those cards milled, anyways. All right, now we got some choices. We have what 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 mana, so we could just cast a big creature. Unfortunately, both our big creatures there are bent to the battlefield effects. They don't really do anything against this Elish Norn. Or we can Green Sun Zenith for 7, which again, without being able to get anything that doesn't enter the battlefield effect, we're pretty limited on options with this Green Sun Zenith. And just for those that don't know, Green Sun Zenith says 1 green in X, and you pay X, or whatever you put into X, you get to find a green creature with mana cost X or less, and put it onto the battlefield. So we're gonna cast it. We're just gonna use all our mana. We're not gonna be able to cast 2 spells anyways. I could have just cast the Thran Dynamo first potentially, but I wasn't really sure what my deck list was. I didn't take a picture beforehand, and I figured we should go and look anyways, and just to keep as much mana in there as possible, just in case there's something that I overlooked. But yeah, I think we're just going to get Oracle of Moldiah here. Oracle, again, it's going to let us see the top of our deck, and we see Emra-Cool up top, which is a little bit awkward because we don't really... I mean, we're very close to being able to get up to 15 mana, but things would need to go pretty well for us. We would basically need them to leave all our mana all our mana creatures alone. And hit some land drops, as well as get to cast this Thran Dynamo next turn, and yeah, a lot of things need to go right for us to get to 15. If we can level up this Tree Speaker, then we can make it so all our elves tap for 2 green, and Oracle and Springleaf Druid are both elves, so that is relevant. But it's a pretty big mana investment. It's at least 6 more mana, I believe, to get it to max level. Unfortunately, no land on top is a Coalition Relic, so that does throw a wrench in our plan a little bit. Again, we just have to play this Thran Dynamo. I mean, we could have just played like a level 8 character, but then also we're still not going to be able to cast Emra-Cool next turn, so we just got to go for the Thran Dynamo here. We're going to have to, basically we're going to block the Blightsteel Colossus that they just tinkered out. And Blightsteel Colossus is an 11/11 trample, infect, indestructible creature. So yeah, we have to block at least 2 of it. Otherwise we take 10 poison and just die and just lose the game. So we're gonna have to block the Springleaf as well as the Tree Speaker or potentially the Bird. All right, opponent goes for a Frantic Search, which is gonna let them draw 2, discard 2, and then untap 3 lands. So it's essentially a free card selection. And then they go for a Restoration Angel, which is going to allow them to blink 2 things because of Elesh Norn. It's entered the battlefield effect. They're going to blink the Wall of Omens, which is going to draw them 2 cards, and they're also going to blink the thing that gives them initiative. So that's gonna send them 2 stages further into their dungeon, getting them to their final room in the dungeon, allowing them to mill 10 and then bring anything from the card's milled onto the battlefield. And they find Palace Jailer, which is going to get to exile 2 things because of Elesh Norn. And also it gives them the Monarch, I believe. We didn't change anything from our sideboard, so we just kind of skip past that. I did take the useless planes out though, fortunately. But yeah, obviously we weren't able to beat the Palace Jailer. Game starts off very similarly here in game 2. Opponent plays Esper Sentinel, and then we have turn 1 Birds of Paradise into a Wall of Roots. Wall of Roots with the Pattern of Rebirth. It's a little bit slow, but it's a really good little combo anyways, because Wall of Roots puts a -0/-1 counter onto itself to make a green mana. So you can do that on your turn as well as on the opponent's turn, and then you can put Pattern of Rebirth on it, and then it'll kill itself basically. But then we drew Devoted Druid, which just does the same thing kind of more efficiently. Okay, so we're just going to jam the Pattern of Rebirth onto the Devoted Druid. We're going to tap the Devoted Druid to pay for the Esper Sentinel so they don't get the card. And then we can put a -1/-1 counter on it to untap it. We can tap it for a green, and then we put a -1/-1 counter on it to kill itself and untap it once more. And yeah, it allows us to go to trigger Pattern of Rebirth and just put Emra-Cool onto play in turn 3 here. And yeah, opponent needs, I think, exactly Palace Jailer or some kind of effect that isn't a spell that targets it. It has to be like a permanent, like an Oblivion Ring or something that when it comes into play, it exiles something, because it does have protection from colored spells. They go for Phyrexian Metamorph. They could have copied my Emra-Cool, and they would have had 6 permanents to sacrifice other than their own Emra-Cool from the Emra-Cool's Annihilator, but they just go for the Wall of Omens and end up conceding. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty tough to beat an Emra-Cool unless you can immediately remove it. Unfortunately, we do get another 1-lander here on our mulligan because our opening hand was absolutely terrible. I think we're just gonna put Hornet Queen onto the bottom, and then we've got Devoted Druid. I mean, we're on the draw, so we can just get a second land. We're in pretty good shape. If we get a second land, we get to play Pattern of Rebirth the following turn and also trigger it. They get turn 2 Wall of Omens here, drawing an extra card. We do hit our second land, so we're gonna jam out our Devoted Druid, of course. And we know they don't have too much interaction as far as removal goes outside of Palace Jailer, at least from what we saw. They do have 2 mana up, but yeah, we just decide it's worth it to go for it. We tap 3, untap, and then tap it once more for the 4th mana there. And then we're gonna play Pattern of Rebirth onto our Devoted Druid, and yeah, they know they can't beat it, so or they know that they have no answer, so they just immediately scoop before we even get to go look for our Emra-Cool. So yeah, we win round 1, on to round 2. Pretty bad hand here. We're gonna send that one back. So we're gonna go down to 6 cards once more. Although this hand is much better. We've got a pretty solid curve here. We just send our big creature back. We've got Tooth and Nail for if we for finding our finisher. So we don't want to gum up our hand too much with big spells. We want to just be able to play things early. We're going to be able to play Wall of Roots here, and then we can Green Sun Zenith next turn just to fill our curve. I think the best thing to get would just be Rafellos, which is again taps for 1 for every green mana or for every forest we have. So it would be tapping for 3 right now, which is it's a huge amount of mana. But instead we find Thran Dynamo, which I'm just going to cast first. That's going to give us a big chunk of mana as well next turn. So that's going to give us 6 plus the Wall of Roots is 7 mana next turn. So we're just 2 mana away from being able to play our Tooth and Nail with Entwine. Opponent is going to play a Ramunap Excavator, which lets them play lands from the graveyard. So we are a little bit worried about Wasteland, or not Wasteland, Strip Mine, because Strip Mine is a land that you can sack to destroy one of your opponent's lands. We're just going to cast a Green Sun Zenith here. We have a decent amount of mana. We do need to just find basically one more mana. One more mana, and then we can Entwine Tooth and Nail the following turn. So like Oracle of Moldiah or Springleaf Druid would be just fine here. Believe we go for the Springleaf. Yeah, we go for the Springleaf here. It's also going to thin our deck a little bit. We're going to pull 2 lands out of our deck, so we're less likely to draw a land on subsequent turns. Like it's not by a huge factor. Opponent plays Shield Druid, and like I know Shield Druid is pretty busted in like standard and like regular limited sets, but if you're playing Shield Druid in in Vintage Cube, you are playing extremely fair, and you're at a pretty big disadvantage. As they just play a 4 mana 4/5 with Death Touch, and we are gonna Entwine Tooth and Nail here, which means we're gonna go get 2 creatures, any creatures, put them into our hand, and then the second effect is put 2 creatures from your hand onto the battlefield, and we're gonna put Xenagos and Emra-Cool in. We're gonna give Emra-Cool haste, which is gonna, and it's also gonna double its power, so it's gonna be 30 damage flying with Annihilator 6, and yeah, opponent scoops before we get to make our attack. So yeah. Again, Shield Druid, extremely fair card in comparison to what other people are doing in Vintage Cube. All right, game 2 here. We've got without opponent's disruption, we have an unbeatable hand pretty much. We've got turn 2 Channel Emra-Cool, so we get to play a Mana Dork on turn 1, and then we've got our 2 lands. We just go find a forest or taiga or whatever, cast Channel, and then we can pay life to add colorless mana, and we just do that 15 times, cast our Emra-Cool, which is going to give us an extra turn, and then we get to attack. They have to sacrifice all their lands and permanents, because they definitely are not going to have 6 things on the board on turn 2. Or turn 3, I suppose. No, I guess it'll be their turn 2. So yeah, we're going to go find taiga. It might be more correct to just go get a forest, just to play around Wasteland. Because if they play Wasteland, or if they just play Wasteland and destroy our land, like Arbor Elf we still get there with Channel, so never mind. Disregard. Him to Turok or something would be their best bet, or Thoughtseize, to be able to pull our Channel out of our hand, but unfortunately for them, they don't have it. They do play Phyrexian Revoker. They shut off our Elf, because the Elf untaps lands. It's not a mana ability, so we just get to play our Channel without any disruption, and yeah, we just start paying life for colorless mana. We'll just speed it up just a little bit. Magic Online's a very slow program. There we go. Spend 15 life for 15 mana. Cast Emra-Cool. They concede. That's a pretty easy one for us. And fortunately, before game 3, I did remember to pull out that Plains that I was sideboarding out. Just a little bit of a deck building error there, as I was convinced I was playing the White Splash, but definitely don't need Mirari's Wake in this deck. I mean, not that it's not great. In fact, it might be very good. Might have been worth playing, but I just I would rather have the consistency anyways, and our deck is powerful enough without having Mirari's Wake. All right, we have a pretty decent opening hand. We got a couple Mana Dorks. We got Green Sun Zenith to fill out our curve, and we've got a big green threat. So pretty happy about the start. We've also got our red source if we need it, for Through the Breach or Xenagos. Not that we really necessarily want to be playing Xenagos, but we don't really want to be casting it. We just want to find it with Tooth and Nail. All right, there's Emra-Cool, which we will need to find a lot of mana to be able to cast. And speaking of a lot of mana, we are going to go for a green Sun Zenith for 2 here. We get to find a green creature that costs 2 or less, and we're going to get Raphellos, which is again going to tap for it taps for a green for every forest you control. Unfortunately, opponent just jams balance. They do discard a card, so it's technically a 2 for 2. They discard a land, and yeah, we lose both our creatures. So what balance does is it basically evens out cards in hand, creatures in play, and lands in play. So there's a bunch of different ways you can abuse it. Like, it doesn't affect planeswalkers or artifacts. So if you have a bunch of artifact mana and don't play many lands, you can make your opponent sacrifice their lands, as well as like it can wipe the board if you just don't have any creatures. It's a very broken card. And yeah, we get a Pattern of Rebirth with no creatures left. Opponent has a Planeswalker online now. It looks like they're just playing 5-color like Super Friends. Super Friends just being Planeswalkers. And yeah, Chandra in particular is a pretty decent clock. They get to tick up and deal 2 damage every turn, as well as they can minus to kill whatever creature we play. It's sorcery speed, so if we can play a creature plus Pattern of Rebirth, then that's good. They also get a second Planeswalker, Dak Faden, which can -2 to steal an artifact, which is incredibly good in this queue. There are a lot of powerful artifacts. Now we do draw Wall of Roots, which is exactly the creature we need to be able to play Pattern of Rebirth onto. So there's that. And also, I mean, again, it's pretty slow, but in the next few turns, we will be able to have it kill itself and go find something from our deck. Unfortunately, we have Emra-Cool in hand, so we can't find Emra-Cool. They do play Niv Mizzet, which is allows them to look at the top 10 cards, and for every color pair, they get to take a card and put it into their hand. There's a third Planeswalker in Red and 6, and you can see they have another Planeswalker. They had a Nahiri as well, which is a red-white Planeswalker, so as I said, 5-color Super Friends. Red and 6 is going to allow them to keep getting lands from their graveyard back, so they're going to keep hitting land drops for the foreseeable future. And they've also got an army of flyers here. So it's a race against the clock at this point to get our Wall of Roots dead, to get something into play to kind of stop the bleeding. Hornet Queen is definitely the best thing that we can get here, just to gum up the air and stop the flyers from getting in. Alright, and we draw Channel. We do have 16 life. We do have some mana. I mean, we want to make a mana with Wall of Roots anyways, and just keep putting the -0, -1 counters onto it. So we don't have to go down to like 1 to cast Emra-Cool here, but yeah, I'm pretty sure Channel is like exactly the card we needed to draw, so incredibly fortunate there. Alright, we are going to drop down to 5, which leaves us out of range of... well, at least the tokens. I mean, we're still in range of dying to the Niv Mizzet, but we do get to take another turn. We draw another land. Unfortunately, we don't quite have enough to cast the Terastodon. Thanks to that extra turn, we are going to be able to put another counter onto the Wall of Roots, which means we're going to be able to pop the Wall of Roots on their turn. We're going to attack with Emra-Cool because we have to. I mean, it's the only way that we're going to win. Even though we can't attack into their Planeswalkers. They have to sacrifice 6 permanents though, but they do get to select which ones. So they're going to leave themselves with some Planeswalkers as well as their Niv Mizzet. Of course, Niv Mizzet is a lethal threat. But fortunately for us, again, we have this Pattern of Rebirth on their turn. I'm not sure if they're accounting for it or not, but yeah, the selections are just a few lands. They sack their Chandra for some reason, even though Chandra is a way to deal damage to us directly. I might have sacked all my lands if I was the opponent and left the tokens as well as the Chandra, because you can deal 3, 4, 5 with the Chandra plus the Red and 6 and the 2 tokens. It's just in case Niv Mizzet gets dealt with. But yeah, they go make their Niv Mizzet attack. We pop our Wall of Roots. We go get Hornet Queen, and yeah, Niv Mizzet doesn't have trample, so we can just throw a single Death Touching Bee in front of this Niv Mizzet, which is going to block it very, very efficiently. And yeah, they're gonna dig and see if they can find an answer, but yeah, them not being able to kill me this turn means that Emra-Cool is just gonna take over the game, I think, and it does. And yeah, that looked like we were in such a bad position there, but that channel like extremely bailed us out. We bring in Phyrexian Revoker just in case we can shut down a Planeswalker. We don't necessarily want to be playing it super early. This hand is really bad without any mana acceleration. Through the Breach, like with Terastodon, can do something potentially, but I just think the hand is a little too unreliable, so we send it back, and then we get another hand with Phyrexian Revoker. But again, we're gonna send that back. It just like we would rather just like enact our game plan. It's possible that Terastodon was the pick actually to send back there, just because we have the Tooth and Nail in hand, but we end up sending the Revoker back. Again, I'm not entirely sure that was correct, but that's what we chose to do here. We're going to start with Tree Speaker here. Next turn we can level it up and then tap it for 2 mana and hopefully play a Signet or Utopia Sprawl. Probably Signet though. Opponent leaves 2 untapped mana. We play land, go for the level up. And yeah, opponent does have an answer here. You see they immediately crack their fetch land to go get a land. And yeah, this is really unfortunate. They take a couple damage from their shock, which is fine. We're killing them all at once. We're not like chipping away at their life total, so that doesn't matter to them. But yeah, they cast Stomp, the other side of the adventure portion of the giant here. And yeah, that does set us back a turn though. Like we basically like kind of wasted our, well, not really wasted, but we basically lose a bunch of momentum there with mana and accelerating, which is very unfortunate. And then yeah, we don't get to play our Thran Dynamo, unfortunately, so we get majorly punished for leading with the Tree Speaker anyways. I think there was. I think I played. I played that turn a little bit inefficiently. I remember in chat somebody was like we were discussing whether I should have played the Utopia Sprawl before trying to level up the Tree Speaker, and I definitely should have. I could have played the Utopia Sprawl and still leveled up the Tree Speaker, and then drawing the Thran Dynamo and not having enough to cast it the following turn. So we just get maxed punish for playing inefficiently there. Sorry, they took a moment to recall. I just kind of remembered. And yeah, opponent has an Abrade for our Thran Dynamo here, unfortunately. We would have been able to cast Terastodon the following turn, if not. So, a little bit unfortunate. Opponent is doing a really good job of disrupting our mana here. They do play a Golos, so they have, I'm pretty sure they have all 5 colors of mana. Yeah, easily, right? Yeah, so Golos is a 5 mana 3/5 that lets you go find any land to put into the battlefield tapped, and you can pay 1 of each color plus 2 colorless and look at the top 3 cards and cast any creature or any card without paying its mana cost. So it's a card that can easily take over the game just by itself, especially if you have a bunch of big powerful cards in your deck. We just cast Coalition Relic, and unfortunately their opponent does have a Wear and Tear, which says destroy target artifact or enchantment. And yeah, they destroy. Sorry, they fused Wear and Tear, so they got to destroy an artifact and an enchantment. It's a double-faced card that you can pay extra mana to fuse together to do both. And they got our Utopia Sprawl plus our Coalition Relic. We draw Emra-Cool. We have no plays, and yeah, unfortunately we kind of go down in flames there. So we're just gonna cut the Phyrexian Revoker here. Our sideboard plan is we're gonna bring in a bunch of black sources and Mind Twist. Or not a bunch. We're gonna bring in basically our black mana and Mind Twist, and we're basically gonna hope to get them with Mind Twist, I guess. Because yeah, they're kind of trying to grind us out. So I figure if we can just get some mana acceleration and get an early Mind Twist, like we can slow them down, and that'll allow us to kind of build up into our game plan. We get a turn 1 Arbor Elf, which is great. We have another forest here, Gruul's Signet. We've got good acceleration. Opponent plays Library of Alexandria though, so Library of Alexandria allows you to draw a card when you have 7 cards in hand already. So in general, you wait for your opponent's turn. You get to draw up to 8 cards. That way you don't have to discard at the end of turn. But we are going to get to play our Gruul's Signet. Like at least they're not disrupting us. They're going to be spending a land every turn, just drawing cards and trying to get ahead on cards. And yeah, we're gonna get Plow Under on turn 3 on the play. So opponent's just gonna have 2 lands in play, and we're gonna put them both on top. Again, they're gonna have a lot of cards, but that's completely fine, as they're gonna have a hard time playing things. And if they keep trying to draw cards with library, then that's gonna slow them down as well. And yeah, we're just gonna go for the Plow Under here, just really set them back by a lot. You can see on the 3rd round of Cube here, the client has started to slow down, because Magic Online is a very great program, and has a memory leak, and just ends up getting very laggy as you play. I don't remember it being nearly this bad. Like, I used to play a lot of Magic Online. Like, I used to just grind limited events like like it was my job. Just because, yeah, drafting was definitely my favorite thing to do before Storybook came along. And then yeah, so yeah, we managed to Plow Under. We throw 2 lands on top. They are going to get to kind of draw through it, but that also gives us a chance to just set up for mana here, or set up our mana here. And we're going to get to play a Thran Dynamo, which is going to give us, I think, like 9 mana next turn. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or so 8 mana next turn. If we can draw a land, then we can basically take away their entire hand. Because if we can Mind Twist them for 8, then that'll basically, like, even if they draw off Library of Alexandria, that's going to take away their entire hand and basically leave them with 2 lands and nothing to do. I mean, we still do need to draw into something that can kill them, but yeah, it'll leave us in an extremely good position. Opponent plays a tap Stomping Ground here. We draw Emra-Cool. We can't quite cast it, but we do get to get this enormous Mind Twist off. Again, you can see the program struggling. It's just like a pretty big delay for every action I click here. So apologies for that. All right, there's a big Mind Twist for 8. Opponent's not even going to bother drawing with Library of Alexandria. I mean, there's no point. So we leave them with just a Stomping Ground and a colorless land, and they can no longer draw with Library because they don't have a hand. They don't have 7 cards anymore. And yeah, as soon as we just find a way to play a big threat, then I'm sure they'll concede. They draw a Braid, and they're able to take out our Thran Dynamo. A little bit unfortunate. Does keep us off any large creatures that we draw. There's a Pattern of Rebirth, which doesn't really do a lot, and we just get in for 1. Arbor Elf does put them on a very slow clock, so that is something. All right, we draw through the Breach, and yeah, that's going to be enough to end the game here. We just cast through the Breach. We just put Emra-Cool into play. It annihilates both their lands, and also it's lethal. It's 15 plus the 1 from Arbor Elf is enough to win the game there. And yeah, there we have it. That was my first Vintage Cube draft of the season. Also, there's my transition screen. As I did immediately on stream, I went to restart my client to get rid of the memory leak, at least for the next draft. So yeah, this is the screen that I use on stream when I'm transitioning between things. I think it's very relatable. Anyways, but yeah, that was Vintage Cube. I hope this was enjoyable. Please let me know if you enjoyed this. If you want to see more MTG content. I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Infinite Fusion lately, doing Nuzlocke and stuff. I know it's been a while since I uploaded. I just took a little bit of a break. We will get back to regular content, of course. For those of you that have stuck around, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Yeah, I don't know. Please leave a like and subscribe. Do all that fun stuff. You know, the regular YouTube spiel. Yeah, I don't think that I have anything else. I mean, I have been streaming every day, so if you want to follow me over on Twitch or catch me live, like I post on the community tab every day as well as in my Discord. So so if you want to come and hang out over there, I would very much like to see you over there. And yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I'm sorry this is a little bit messy, but yeah, we're gonna figure out how content's gonna look going forward. I think we're just gonna kind of try and use the same style, sort of like the sped up gameplay with post commentary. And I think I'm gonna apply that to the Nuzlocks as well. I'm gonna be uploading my my Nuzlocke runs as well coming up soon. So hope you look forward to that. Again, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, apologies for the sort of scattered nature of this outro. All right, bye-bye.